And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 4, episode 8. And obviously, this is one of my favorite episodes of the year. That's no surprise to QCast viewers. This is the Illinois Wesleyan men's basketball season preview with head coach Ron Rose. And, Ron, this is the 115th season of Titan basketball. You have not been the coach for all 115. But isn't that pretty amazing that our little alma mater has
It's
played
awesome.
114 seasons? Like, doesn't that give you some crazy context?
It is, and the cool is the history of it. I mean, there's stories behind those 115 years. And I know you're the 100-year anniversary seems like it was 2 years ago.
Right.
So the last 15 years have kind of evaporated on me, but yeah, it's really a cool thing to be a part of for sure.
For you, this is season 18, which is unbelievable. You passed 300 wins last year, so you're getting to the point, Ron, where we've got some milestones happening and things that are associated with guys that have some tenure to them. Can you believe it's been 17 full years heading into 18 now?
Well, I thought you were going to say I have some miles on me, which is also true set of milestones. But yeah, it is. It does not seem that 18 years for sure. And yeah, and it's like it's year 1 or 2 and just as exciting as ever. And we've been along for this 18-year ride, and hopefully we've got some more years in us, Q.
Yeah, the program's in such great shape. We're going to talk about all of that today, but as a fan, I'm just so excited about the quality of talent on the roster. We'll talk about every kid individually, as we always do. I wanted to ask about practice season because when I first heard that the NCAA changed the season and allowed like these, I think it's like 8 extra practices, the first person in the world I thought of was Ron Rose, because if anyone likes practice, talking about practice, if anyone likes practice, it is Ron Rose. Were you like beside yourself to know that you got 8 more practices?
It's practice. We're talking practice here, Q. You know I love practice. I mean that's where you teach, that's where you learn, that's where you get better. So they're actually, yeah, I was thrilled. Going from 19 weeks to 114 days. And our guys will like this. It's actually not 8 extra, it's 8 you get earlier.
Right.
So how they did that was 19 weeks times 6 days a week, 114 days. But that will also ensure that we're taking days, additional days off during the season, which is always good that I'm forced to do that because my natural inclination is to practice.
Right.
Yeah, to get back in the gym. So this will force me to take those additional days off. But we are further along now than we ever have been. I think it's better for our guys' bodies. You know, we didn't have to go back to back. You could practice a day and take 2 off. Better for learning. I thought, especially for freshmen, you know, sometimes they get blown away the first week because you're throwing so much information at them. They have a little more time to digest. So you are absolutely right. When I had heard that was coming into play, I was ecstatic, and I guess we'll find out if we used them wisely. But they've certainly been beneficial so far.
But before we talk about this season, the rest of the QCast, let's talk about last season just a little bit. You know, it was from a fan standpoint, it was a frustrating grind of a season. You and I talked throughout the year. I know how much of a grind it was for the people on the coaching side. 12-14, 7-9. You know, the thing I'm struck by, it was just such a weird season in that I think I counted 8 of the losses came in the final couple of minutes of the game, in some cases the final seconds of the game.
Yeah.
Have you ever been involved? Coaching's a roller coaster. Had you ever been involved in a season where, you know, you had so much trouble late in games in moments that could have swung a season one way or another?
It was, you know, I give our team credit last year, the resilience to the very last game of how we prepared. And I felt this way, the team felt this way. We could turn it at any moment.
Right.
And I think that was the frustrating part, was we were so close to being a an 18-win team. I don't think any team wanted to take us for granted last year. We were competitive in every game. Our margin for error, because we didn't score the ball well, we didn't shoot it well, our margin for error was very small. So that naturally, you're going to play in a lot of close basketball games. And we just couldn't swing those close ones last year. Just didn't, whether it was getting the necessary stop, hitting the necessary bucket. Free throw shooting was an issue. I think we counted 6 or 7 losses. Had we shot 70% from the free throw line for the game, we would have won.
Yeah.
So there were just a lot of small things that could have flipped that season. But at the same time, I was really proud of our guys in terms of hanging in there. No one quit. No one gave into it. We just never quite got over that hump, though.
You lose a couple really important players on your team, and I guess more importantly, just good people and great student athletes, and Cody Mitchell and Lucas Heflen, guys that were part of the program for such a long time, and through such a difficult period with the pandemic. And, they were part of that special team, that Elite Eight team, and played big roles on that team. You've got a great cast this year, but I know you're gonna miss Cody and Lucas a lot.
Yeah, those are the cool thing about it. Illinois Wesleyan guys come in as freshmen, and 4 years later, they're program guys or Titans, and they really embraced being Titans. They took a lot of pride in that. They both had strong senior seasons, so they are big losses. It's gonna be odd this year seeing them playing. In different uniforms, but certainly rooting for those guys and really appreciative of everything they did in their 4 years here.
Yeah, they both had really big seasons last year for you. I think I give Lucas a lot of credit. I think he was asked to play, a whole bunch of point guard, and I think you and I both agree that his natural position is not point guard. I thought he played really well in some tough situations. I thought he was a competitor, and of course, Cody. What can you say? Like a kid that just played hard, a great rebounder, a physical kid. So they will be missed. Heading into this year, or maybe kind of where you stand right now, you've had many practices at this point, as we're in kind of the week leading up to the Illinois State game, which we'll talk a lot about. But how are your feelings right now with where things stand in terms of the upcoming year?
Well, we're further along than we've ever been because of those additional practices. I think they allow you to teach better than usually. It's a shotgun start, and you've got 2 weeks, and you're throwing stuff in and just trying to get it in so that you're organized enough to play. This allowed us to do more breakdown, more build up, hopefully creating better habits so that we'll be able to execute better as we move forward. And the group's been terrific. Because of the tough season last year, that naturally is a natural motivator. And our guys had great off seasons. They worked their tails off, and then they came in good shape. They've had great attitudes, incredibly coachable and motivated. So those are all great qualities to bring into practice. And, the season, it's a long season. It's a journey, as we both know, but it's been a terrific start.
This is a really unique situation in that we're recording this here on Monday, and you have a game this Sunday, an exhibition game against Illinois State. And, I think you'd agree, when you went to Illinois Wesleyan and when I went to Illinois Wesleyan, it would be unthinkable that the Titans and the Redbirds would play a basketball game. And
right,
when I heard about this, I was so excited to know that the schools came together and created this opportunity to make it about the community and to have the men and the women play. This is really pretty amazing, Rod. Talk about it, if you would, just your thoughts on how this came about and what your thoughts are playing the Redbirds.
Well, over the years, it's been tossed around several times. I'm sure over the decades, 54 years, about, is it time? Should we? And it just was never the right time. Our women had already signed a contract to play. Ryan Peden and I have become friends in a short time, and that had been discussed. I think that behind the scenes, Mike Wagner had conversations. It's always been tossed around in the community about when is this going to happen? Why aren't we playing? And everything just kind of fell into place this year where it just seemed to make sense. I think Mike Wagner was a driving force in terms of the ideas of let's make this a community event. Let's give the proceeds, some of them to the community, and then some also for the mental health awareness at both universities. That made a lot of sense. And to do a double header should be really an exciting time. I know I've received a ton of really positive feedback and excitement regarding the game.
And it's cool also that Ryan Peden is a D3 guy. He played at Worcester for Steve Moore. And so I know that isn't the reason we're playing, but I think you guys are friends and have talked. I mean, he certainly respects Illinois Wesleyan's program because he knows what the top of Division III looks like. Is that fair to say?
No question. He understands, it's a big deal for a Division III team to get to play Division I. He brought in Worcester last year as alma mater. He had some opportunities to play Division I teams when he was a player. And, I will say this, a lot of people have said, it's a no-win situation for him. And I don't agree with that. He's already won. I mean, in terms of just the positive feedback from the community, the goodwill in the community.
Yeah. And
he's done a lot of things to create excitement around Redbird basketball. And so I think there's a lot of positives that he's already gotten out of this. And hopefully it'll be a great game. I'm hoping that, there'll be a lot of people there, a lot of excitement. I'm hoping it's very competitive. And but we are appreciative because certainly I would understand from his standpoint why he wouldn't want to do this.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough thing for him. I mean, if he loses to the Division III team across town, that's obviously not great. But I think it's much bigger than that. At this point,
No doubt.
It's just so much bigger than that. And I give Illinois State and everyone associated with this tons of credit for making this work, because I don't know, in my time around the Titans, which is a long time now, I think it's been unhealthy to a certain degree, to hang on what happened back in 1970. It's been fun to have that Tom Gramco basket hanging over everyone's head, but at the same time, I think it was time to do it, and it feels like the right time. So I'm really looking forward to being in the gym on Sunday. It's going to be fun. And then we shouldn't forget, you also have a Division I game just a few days later. You play Northern Illinois on Wednesday. These D1 exhibitions, Ron, you've done a great job. Like you had Bradley last year, you had UIC, you had the Salukis, you had the Illini. These are a great thing for your kids. Talk about why you set these D1 exhibitions up.
Well, we want to recruit guys that are competitive, that want to be challenged. And so every year, every spring, I get on the phone and I make my phone calls to the Division I's in Illinois and surrounding states. And I've always done that. And fortunately, the last 5-6 years, I think we've had one just about every single year.
Yeah. And
we'll continue to do that. It has a lot of purposes, in the off season. Our guys know you're playing Illinois State. It's a little easier that day. You don't feel like working out to work out.
Right.
There, in September, when guys are getting in open gyms, they know what's coming. There's just a little added motivation, I think. Our guys, one thing that when we recruit, we really try to identify guys that love to play. Our guys are hoopers. They love the process. They love getting in the gym anyway, but it's nice to have that. And then the experience. One of our goals is we try to do several things to enhance player experience. And certainly playing in Division I is one of those things. And this Sunday will be one of those things I would imagine our guys are going to remember for a long time. And so whether it's the Division I exhibition, the trips over Christmas time, Christmas break, the foreign trips, all the different things that we try to do to enhance our players' experience and make it an exciting program to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we always talk about YD3, and I had Jason Zimmerman from Emery on the other day, and he just had this great quote. He said, "Good basketball is good basketball. That's why D3."
No doubt.
I think people will see, like in the Illinois State game, there are guys that will be on the floor for us that people will be like, "Oh, he could easily play there. Like he's fitting in with this stuff." I promise that people will see that and be like, "Wow, like that guy's pretty good." So really excited about these next two games, kicking off the year, the exhibitions. A couple other questions before we get into your players. The Sikma tournament has become really a very cool thing, like a very special thing. This year, you've got Ohio Wesleyan, you've got Mary Hardin Baylor, and you've got Wisconsin Stout. Another great field. Talk about what the Sikma Invitational has become, and talk a little bit about how you see this field this year.
Well, I first want to start off and thank Greg and Co Gardner again for donating. What a cool story the backstory is. I mean, the Gardners, Jack Sikma was one of his students, an accounting student here. They developed the friendship that has lasted over time, and for him to donate money so that we can put on this first class tournament, none of this would have happened without their support. And then it's kind of taken on a whole life of its own in terms of, and I think your help has certainly done that, and the publicity you've given the tournament, and our ability to bring in such great teams from around the country that normally wouldn't be in the same place the same weekend playing. And so we've been very fortunate to have some really quality teams, great coaches, and be able to put on a really a first class tournament. And then it's to get that, the first 2 years and this year again will be like an NCAA quality feeling. And so to be able to do that early in the season and to see each other and really find out about your team, the competitive nature of your team, areas you've got to get better. It's a terrific way to start. But I wanted to also, I guess I'd be remiss not to thank the namesake, Jack Sikma, for allowing us to do that. He didn't have to allow us to use his name and put on this, but what a cool thing to have a Naismith Hall of Famer as an alumni that still gives back to the university and program.
It's been incredibly cool to watch this build, and I'm excited. I've got a whole bunch of trips booked here, Coach Rose. Like I have a bunch of flights. I have a flight for the Illinois State game. I have a flight for the Sikma tournament booked already. I can't wait to see it. Has anyone told Coach Cliff, like there's not, in my opinion, really any good barbecue in Bloomington Normal? I mean, maybe people think there's decent barbecue, but like he's from Texas. Where do we steer him in the like schooners?
Well, he may be shaken. I mean, he'll be in withdrawal if he doesn't have barbecue going through his veins. So
great point.
We may want to keep him that way. He'll be a little edgy.
It's a great point. I mean, there's plenty of great dining options in Bloomington Normal. We got to tell Coach Cliff. I mean, he's going to ask where the barbecue is. I don't even think there's an answer that I'm willing to give him. I've got some other places I'll send him. So we're going to love to see Mary Hardin Baylor, Ohio Wesleyan, and UW Stout at the Shirk. It's going to be fun. Another tournament. I feel like one of my favorite things is trying to broker some games. So I think I brokered the Yeshiva thing. Now, to my credit, you're 2-0. You're 2-0. Now, I think I kind of brokered this thing because I wanted us to get a piece of Marietta, and to do so, I had to get us in this Great Lakes. I tried very hard to connect you and Ryan over a period of time, and it finally worked. In all seriousness, what a crazy great tournament Ryan Whitnable has built. This is 8 programs that are unbelievable, teams that are coming into the year with high expectations. You get Wittenberg, I think the #1 leader in all-time wins among Division III programs, and Illinois Wesleyan playing. And in the all-time NCAA tournament wins list, Illinois Wesleyan 1, Wittenberg 2. So you get Wittenberg and then Marietta. And I'm not sure there's been a better program, or at least there's probably not 2 better programs than Marietta in the last decade, 12 years. Talk a little bit about the Great Lakes Invitational, Ron.
Yeah, you've made all these cool connections from around the country, these great programs. They keep calling me. I keep saying you're trying to get me fired. I mean, you look at our schedule and it's just one great program, one great team after another. There's just no breathers. And I love it. I mean, you know how it is in scheduling. We could schedule to, go 7-2, 8-1, most years. We're scheduled to go 1-8 and 2-7, I think, with the people that we're playing against. But Ryan has put on. He's really developed this Great Lakes, an incredible niche of bringing top teams from around the country, and it's really cool to rub shoulders with these programs, be associated with them, these coaches, the unique friendships that are formed, and then really as you go through being able to compare yourself. If we want to be a top 10 program, if we want to be a team that can get to the Final Four, which we certainly aspire to, we know the level. We know how the type of team that we need to become. So we're going to find that out very quickly.
Yep.
Those first 2 weekends and then 2 unbelievable tournaments.
It will. It'll be really cool to be like in the building watching, like Calvin play and Oshkosh play and Redlands play and, just all these great programs. So kudos to Ryan. And I'm so glad that this worked out. And then one final tournament I wanted to ask you about was the Kingsmen Classic. This is another flight. So here's my flight so far: Illinois State, Sikma, Great Lakes, and a flight is booked. And she's in the mix. I had to bait her maybe with some Rodeo Drive conversation. Cal Lutheran tournament, the Kingsmen Classic at Cal Lu, where I believe you play Cal Lu and Redlands, 2 more great programs and great games. Talk about the decision to go out to Southern California to play.
So Rose chose California and not Ohio. Is that what I'm hearing?
She picked. I gave her a choice, and she picked Southern California over Springfield, Ohio.
Shocking. Who would have guessed that one? Another great tournament, another 2 really unbelievable teams. One of the cool things is, as you look at the style of play that we're going to play against. And, obviously one of the goals is that those trips at Christmas is a bonding experience. We always say we want to, part of the experience is you bring your guys together and have these experiences. That's something that really draws your team together. And I think this is maybe the 4th year we've gone out to Cal Lutheran in my tenure, and it's Thousand Oaks is a great place to visit, in December. And then when you top it off with these 2 programs that are both going to be outstanding again this year. We're not. I remember when I was a senior, we went down to Florida my senior year here, and we spent a day on the beach and all got sunburnt before we played. And so we got to watch our guys a little bit, but should be another terrific trip.
And I have learned over the years, I'm a veteran now, that I don't like to stay where the team stays because you guys are living on kind of a tight budget. So I'm at a boutique hotel on the ocean in Malibu, Coach Rose. And so don't expect to see me at the little continental breakfast at 8 a.m, but I will see you plenty of times during the trip. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm at a different hotel.
I haven't heard where Dr. Spear, I hear he's coming out. I can't wait to see Dr. Spear at the games, and maybe he'll hang out with us there.
We can't wait to see Bob Spear. That'll be fun. And then final question before we dig into players, the CCIW. I just submitted my top 25 ballot, Ron, and I had Carthage and North Park in my top 25. I think Elmhurst is great. I think we're great. We can go down the line. I mean, is Wheaton ever not a great basketball team? And North Central, we just go through the whole list of the CCIW. Unique season this year. Stevie D really has Carthage in a good spot coming in. North Park had such an awesome season last year, returns a lot of those guys. So talk about, if you would, a little bit of the league heading in.
Well, the league's always, as you know, the league's always good. It reloads every year. Everybody works so hard at it. It's a league full of really great colleges, programs, and coaches. bring in talented guys every year. When you look at our all conference team at the end of the year, you're looking at some incredibly talented players. Like you mentioned, I think that the teams, you look at Carthage and North Park, and I'm throwing Elmhurst right in that exact mix. They've got a lot of returning, usually the teams that have experience, that have some older guys, you pick early on, and those guys, what's coming back. And so I 100% would agree that when you look at those three on paper coming into the season, are top 20 type teams, in my opinion. We hope we can get in that mix, but there are no bad teams.
No, not at all.
That's one of the really unique things about our league is from top to bottom, whoever that is, that can change. And the guy, whatever teams finish 7th and 8th can beat 1 and 2 on a given night. And I think that's really unique thing about our league.
I was in a little draft on the D3 Datacast podcast where the draft was you were picking champions of every conference in Division III. There were 5 of us and there was 8 rounds. And so we picked 40 teams. There's 42 leagues. 2 leagues people wanted no part of trying to pick. And the CCIW was one that these 5 prognosticators, no one wanted a shot at picking the CCIW champ. And so I thought that said it all in terms of Carthage North Park on paper, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of 3 other teams ended up winning the league. So it's going to be another fun season in the league. Let's talk about players. I think this has become the favorite part of this annual tradition for most people, is just hearing you talk about the guys you've recruited in and the guys on the roster. First question, and I should have asked you this off air and I didn't, is do we have captains yet for the season? Sometimes that's sorted out by now, sometimes it's not. Do we have captains?
We do have captains. We've got tri-captains. Ryan Sroka, Evan Schneider, and Luke Yoder are going to serve as our captains. And I've had a chance to sit down with all of them and kind of talk about what I view as the captain's responsibility and what an honor it is. If you go back over, we talked about 115 years. If you go back over the list of former captains, what an incredibly impressive list that is of men and leaders. And so I really, those 3 have done an unbelievable job, take a lot of pride in the program, and guys will follow. One of the things that has jumped out early in practice is just the communication amongst our players, that we're having great conversations during practice. And when you see that as a coach, you think, there's something unique there. There's really a chance to continue to grow. But those are our 3 captains for the year. 3
guys who will play key roles on the floor this year. And I'm glad I started there because, Ryan Sroka is a returning captain. That was one that I assumed that Evan Schneider would be. I just am so impressed with Evan and listening to him in some of the post-game interviews on the web streams, getting to know him a little bit. The only player I want to go out of order in this, because I've got our roster right here. I was just going to go down the order. I wanted to start with Luke. I'm so glad to hear that Luke's a captain. We haven't had a chance to talk about Luke returning on the QCast, but I wanted to ask you, it was probably a confusing thing that happened, right? It's like Luke transferred to Division I and he had a great experience in Division I. At some point, Luke approaches you and says, Coach, I want to come back if you'll have me. And I know that wasn't just a no-brainer, like, yes, let's do it. I know from talking to you at the time that you had to take this through a process to just kind of figure it out, right? Can you, as much as you can, what was, when Luke approached you and your decision to say, Luke, we would love you to come back, just summarize what that was all like.
Well, to me, it wasn't just my decision. We had to do what was right for the program and everybody within the program. And so, and I'll say this, it wouldn't have even considered it if Luke Yoder wasn't the way Luke Yoder is. Right. His first 3 years here, he's a hard worker. He's a great teammate. He's about the team. He maintained close friendships throughout. If any of those things weren't true, they're probably deal breakers. But the fact that, he was the type of teammate he was his first 3 years allowed this to even be considered. And I went and talked to a lot of the returning guys, and to a man, it was, heck yes, coach, we'd love to have Luke back. But I think then it was also a matter of, how does Luke approach this? Luke actually, once he, put his name in the portal, told them he was leaving, came back and talked to the team. And I'll say this, as we're getting ready to talk about our players, we have unbelievable young men in this program, as you know. It's a tradition, not just of good basketball players, but great people. And that's one of the things that we take a lot of pride in as a staff, is recruiting high character guys that are just good dudes. And they are. And the fact that they welcomed him back the way they did, because there's some guys, obviously, as talented as Luke is, he's going to compete for that point guard minutes and take minutes away. There was no hesitation in anyone that I talked to. And so, and Luke was very humble about it. He knew he had to earn back trust, earn back a position on the team and he just kind of quietly, as he does, quietly goes about his business and works and earns everybody's respect. And so it has not been an issue whatsoever. I've been thrilled at what a smooth transition it is. We vote for captains, and certainly coaches have some say in that as well. But I was really happy to see that his teammates recognize what a leader he is, and he's a Titan, and he's been great since he's been back. So it's like he never left. We don't talk about it. It's kind of a done thing. Right. And so we're excited. I think he's earned that opportunity, and we're thrilled to have Luke back in the program.
Yeah, and just hearing it again that he's a captain, it kind of solidified to me what I assumed, which was that things were going very well with that. And for him to be picked and voted as a captain, it means that the transition has been really seamless, and that is great to hear. And you've got three really great leaders in Ryan Sroka, Evan Schneider, and Luke Yoder. So let's go through the players, and I'll ask you just for a few more sound bites on Luke when we get to Luke. Just going right down the roster, which is in order of their jersey number. Let's start with Hakim Williams, who is a 6'3" junior.
Yeah, Hakim has been dealing with he had a stress fracture in his foot and actually played with it for the last month of the season. And we really kind of threw Hakim in there. And, before the season, we thought, is he a 1? Is he a 2? Is he 3? We played him at the 4 a lot when we took our trip to Greece. He's a unique player because he's 6'3", 220 pounds, terrific athlete, just a versatile player. He has a great feel for the game. We ended up at the end of the year making him our full-time point guard, something that he hadn't really done before. Probably wasn't fair of us to ask him to do that, but he really embraced the challenge, embraced that, and got better in terms of his understanding of the game and his willingness to, he's a sophomore that had never been a full-time point guard, how you have to run a team and communicate. And I thought he grew leaps and bounds as the year went on. Unfortunately, like I said, he this offseason, he had to get himself back healthy. Right. He's practicing about 60-70% right now. We're still trying to ease him back into it. But he's a power guard is how I would describe. When he puts his head down and goes, I just say freight train. He is coming down the lane, and I would not want to be on the end of it trying to draw a charge. But he handles the ball. He sees the floor. He's worked hard on his jump shot. He's making shots. We're excited to have an experienced Hakim Williams back playing lots of versatile positions for us this year.
And I think you'd agree, like the time that you threw him into the deep end as the point guard in the CCIW, the time that he spent having to figure out how to do that will make him better when you move him off the ball. So you've got Luke back, you've got some other pure point guards now. Got to make him better having had to do that last year. Is that fair to say, Ron?
Oh, you can see it. And the confidence, you see that every year, a sophomore growing in to be a junior, just the confidence. But yeah, the amount of time he was on the floor with the ball in his hands is really beneficial. And, he may play some point,
Right.
but I mean, he could be 1 through 4, depending on the matchup. And he's really smart. He picks things up quickly. So it's great to have a player of his versatility on a roster.
You've got a really talented guard coming back in Trey Bazzell, who's a 6'3" junior from Prairie Central. I've got to start with Trey went through an incredibly difficult situation, losing his brother after last season ended, and that's been talked about a lot. So certainly thoughts are continue to be with Trey and his family. Basketball wise, Ron, I mean, when he came back last year after being injured, like the way he shot the ball, especially in Oregon, that Portland trip, he looked great. Talk about your junior guard Trey Bazzell coming into this year.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a tough off-season, tragic situation. So all love to the Bazzells. What an incredible family, and it was again talking about our guys, how they have rallied around Trey's been pretty special. Trey, has battled injuries his first 2 years. He's had tough tendonitis in his knees. This is the healthiest he's been since high school. You go back over and YouTube Trey Bazzell in high school, and he's jumping up, dunking it two-handed when he was at Prairie Central, and has not been healthy. He's moving better than he's ever moved. I give him a lot of credit. Last season, he played through a lot of pain. He just could not move, and his knees were sore. He's in the best place he's been physically since he's been here. And his shot, I've said this, first time I watched him shoot, it's like, well, that's what a jump shot's supposed to look like. Some guys can shoot it. Some guys are pure. Trey is a pure shooter. And now that he's moving, he's able to get to his spots, get to his shot more comfortably. And it's also confidence. He went from, injured, not really playing second semester his freshman year, to battling injuries. He didn't play in the preseason, practice in the preseason for us as he's trying to get healthy. Right. Our goal all along was try to get him healthy by December 1st. I don't know if you remember the Carroll game when he came in and hit some big threes. So now he's moving. He's got more confidence, just like we talked about Hakim. All those minutes he played a year ago are going to benefit him. And when we go back, we played 7 freshmen, sophomores, a lot of minutes last year in an older league with 4th and 5th year players. That had a lot to do with our finishing, just the experience.
Right.
And so I hope that really benefits us. I've seen it so far in practice with Trey. His confidence, understanding, maturity are completely different than a year ago when he was feeling his way through, trying to figure out who he was as a player at this level.
Yeah, excited about Trey. I think that was one of the issues last year, is just inability to knock down enough 3-point shots, enough perimeter shots, and he brings that now this year. An elite caliber pure shooter. You've got a 5'11" junior from Geneva, a point guard that can really shoot the daylights out of it, and Nathan Valentine. Talk about Nathan if you would.
Yeah, Tino is tough as nails. I mean, he takes on every challenge that you throw at him. He loves basketball, and he loves the process of working. No one's going to outwork Nate. He's in the gym. He's had an off season where he really dedicated himself to getting better. And you just know every day in practice, Nate's going to show up. He's going to compete. He's going to stick his nose in there. And he is very skilled. He can handle the ball. And when he gets his feet set, is a knockdown shooter.
We talked about Luke Yoder's return to the program, but talk a little bit about Luke Yoder, the basketball player.
Well, he's brings a wealth of experience. He started for us for 3 years. When Grant Wolf unfortunately couldn't play because of his concussions, Luke got thrown into the mix as your starting point guard very early in his career. And so he brings a wealth of experience. he just makes the right decision. I've always said that about Luke. When you look at his decision making, it's really point on most of the time, and he can direct a team. He has now that as a fifth-year senior, he has a great feel for how we want to play, how to get into things. I love his pace. He plays at a fast pace. It's one of our goals is to play at a faster pace. I think you and I would agree. I mean, we've been a little offensively challenged the last couple of years in terms of putting points on the board. We're hoping we go back to more of that traditional Illinois Wesleyan style that we're scoring. And I think he can kind of get us into that pace and get us into our offense. And you also look at his defense. That's the kind of thing that oftentimes prohibits freshmen from getting on the floor. They just have such a long way to go to defend with that urgency. That's something Luke brought, was just that defensive mindset that he can pick up full court. And he also has that, I think, things that we look for. There are guys that can concentrate on the floor. That when you're between the lines, you're living between the lines, and Luke does that. So he brings just a lot of tangibles, but also intangibles to the game.
And look, we know that he was playing at the D1 level last year. He started 5 games at the D1 level. I would think that having had to start at point guard at Arkansas and at Kansas, I mean, coming back to Division III in the CCIW, that experience can't hurt, right, Ron? Like he gained valuable experience last year that's going to translate into this year.
We're not going to be worried about getting the ball past half court, I don't think, with Luke handling it.
Right. Which is a huge change. People think, the Titans from one year to the next. I mean, the Luke Yoder thing changes a lot of stuff. You have a 6'1" junior from Springfield. Just talk about Shane Miller.
Yeah, Shane is a junior coming back, and Shane really committed himself in the offseason. Your sophomore to junior year is a big year if you haven't found your way into the rotation yet. And a lot of guys have to kind of make that decision. Am I going to commit to trying to become a varsity basketball player? Shane's lost 10, 15 pounds, in the best shape of his life. Stayed in town and worked here in Bloomington Normal, and he's a frequent visitor of the Shirk Center and is really embraced working out and getting in shape. I love it when guys do that, and then they don't wear shirts around the Shirks anymore, as they're feeling like, hey, I look pretty good. So he's got a whole nother level of confidence. But Shane has some unique abilities that when he really wants to get after it defensively, he's got another gear. He's a ball hawk. And then offensively, he's great with the ball. He's his ability to get by people and make passes very few guys can make. So he's trying to find that niche within our team in terms of how to utilize those abilities to make us better.
Excited to see Shane develop. A 6'3" senior from Champaign Centennial, one of your best shooters in the program, Pryce Punkay.
Yeah, Pryce has been rough career for him health-wise also. He's yet to have a healthy season. He had played himself into the rotation early in the season, and then unfortunately suffered an injury that held him out for, I think, about 6 weeks. And then just never got himself 100% healthy. So that's been a challenge. Pryce newly engaged.
Wow.
Pryce Punkay. Yeah, big news coming out of the Titans. You hear
QCast breaking news.
First. Big news. But Pryce is a pure shooter also, and shoots it with range, shoots it with confidence, can shoot it off the catch, shoot it off the move. And Pryce is just that guy that brings a ton of energy, is another program guy. He's a guy that welcomes the young guys in. As a coach, there's a few things that I enjoy more than when I hear juniors and seniors telling young guys, here's how we do it. And just kind of really taking pride in the program and what we're about. And he's a guy that just makes your program better being a part of it.
I always like kind of Titan legacies, and we got a young man here that's from a Titan family, and Asa Smith, a 6'3" sophomore from El Paso Gridley. Talk about Asa, if you would.
Yeah, Asa comes from the Clemens line that 20-some former Clemens that have been Titans. And we had Asa in camp when he was a little guy. So I've known Asa since he's been third, fourth grade, something like that. He's another one. He's battling some injuries last year and this year, but he is literally one of the nicest young men you are ever going to meet. Great athlete. You put him on the line, we run lines. He wins them. I mean, he can move, and we just got to get him healthy enough to get in the. But he's versatile. He's kind of like a Ryan Sroka that can play the 3, the 4, and he's just a terrific young man to have part of the program, and is a great teammate. Even when he's been injured, he has found ways to contribute. So hopefully we can get him back on the court here soon.
One of the big losses last season was when Nick Roper got hurt in the first minute of like game 5 at Elmhurst. He goes up from the wing, dunk attempt, comes down, severe ankle injury. Nick is back, which is so exciting. You have a 6'8" guard, legit guy that plays the 2-3 at 6'8". Talk about Nick Roper.
Yeah, I've heard my entire career of these high ankle sprains that it's better to break it than the high ankle sprain. I'd never seen one of those until Nick. I mean, it was a pretty traumatic high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
Has taken a long time to heal. I give Nick a lot of credit. You know, that's pretty disappointing and hard to rehab for how many months it's been. But he's hung in there. He's done everything he needed to do to get back healthy. That this has been a process even since he's got back on campus in September. I wouldn't say it's even 100% yet, but it's getting pretty close. And he's unique. 6'8", like you said, a true perimeter guy that can handle it, pass it, shoot it. I thought right when that was really a major blow to our team last year because he helped make us unique. We were long, we were big. Once he went out, it changed our identity of how we needed to play in our rotation. He was just starting to figure out what makes him unique and how to get to spots where 6'8" matters. And he's brought that. He's you know, if there was a silver lining in this, you know, Nick has always been really thin, long, lanky, and thin. Well, because he couldn't do any cardio, he dedicated himself to lifting. So he's now at 215 pounds, put on some really good muscle. And is a guy that can play really 1 through 4, kind of like I talked about Hakim. I mean, he can handle the ball, but is figuring out ways. So he's going to have a great season for us. And he's also growing with a lot of confidence as well.
Yeah, I mean, physically, some of our guys, when we take the floor in some of these tournaments, and you know, the unranked Illinois Wesleyan trots out there with Luke Yoder and whoever, you know, Roper and Sroka and whoever, like they're going to be like, who are these guys? I mean, Hakim.
We're going to look using Coach Bridges' line. We're going to look good coming off the bus. I hope we play well, but we're going to look the part in warmups.
It's going to look amazing coming off the bus. Holy crap. Ron, one of the guys I really liked last year, this kid didn't shoot it that great, but when you threw him in there was something about David Williams, the point guard from Peoria, Notre Dame, that I really liked. Like I thought he played hard. I thought he played good defense. Talk about David, who's now a sophomore.
Yeah, really unfair again to throw the freshman into the fire, and but David takes on all challenges. He's a fiery competitor, and that's just starting to come out. When we watched him in high school, like he was the floor general for Peoria Notre Dame. Well, it's hard to do that. Like he was demanding of his teammates in high school.
Right.
Hard to be demanding as a freshman when you're trying to figure it out. And it's not like he was going to be barking at Lucas Heflen, you know?
Right.
So the way that the things that make David good are starting to show up as he has more confidence and willingness to lead. But he's going to play with great pace. He's going to compete. He's going to guard. One thing that he really is great at is he moves the ball. You know, one of our issues, what we're trying to get is that ball moving quicker. It doesn't stick in one guy's hand. It never sticks in David's hands. The ball moves and flows within your offense. He knows where to get it, and he's really worked on his game and shooting it. He didn't even look at the rim last year as a freshman.
Right,
He went
right.
out there, and sometimes that ball was a hot potato. He's had a really good off season and confidence that he's going to be a guy that you have to guard. He's not going to be the guy that's hunting, trying to get 20, but you better guard him because he is more than capable. It's just kind of a mindset as a sophomore as he comes into his own as a player.
Yeah, I agree. There's something about him that's just really likable, and I think he's going to be a good player for you. One of your captains, just a first-class kid and a great player is Ryan Sroka, 6'5" senior from Huntley. He's been in the mix. This is a rare guy this will be the 4th year that he's been on the floor. Talk about your senior tri-captain and Ryan Sroka.
Yeah, he's been playing since he's a freshman. He brings a wealth of experience and talent. He's unique. He can play the 2, 3, or 4. He's got the size. He's been great because he's been able to do different positions for us. And he does so many things. He's smart. He's tough. You trust him. He can score inside. He can step out. He shot the ball with more confidence early in the season here. But the other thing that was really unique was, if I don't know how players even watch this or not, but hopefully you won't be upset when I say he wasn't a great defender when he came to Illinois Wesleyan. He was an offensive mind, which most of these guys are. They're the best players on their high school team. Most of them are their leading scorers. That's kind of who they are when they come in here. What I love is Ryan has really embraced growing as a defender. He's the guy that's in the right spot. He's locked in. And last year he took on some real challenges where we gave him the other team's best player. And the other thing, is Ryan's always going to play to win. He's going to compete and do the things that whatever's best for the team. And so he is great to have when you have a guy like that who is your captain that is going to do the things that are whatever's best for the team. That's what he's willing to do.
Yeah, really excited to watch Ryan this year. And he's got that Sroka move. Everyone knows the Sikma move, but I feel like the Sroka move is just as cool. That like a little dribble drive, spin, fading 17-footer. I mean, who else in Division III is making that, Coach Rose, except Ryan Sroka?
Only Ryan, bread and butter. That's his bread and butter.
I really hope I get to see that at CCIW Arena Sunday. I'm so excited about it.
He's 6'5" or 6'6", Q. He's tall.
He is a big kid. We put
him like back to back with Matt Laird's in the day. He's less than an inch shorter than Matt Laird's.
Right.
So he is a tall kid. You don't realize that because we played him at the 2 at times. So it's a unique to have that kind of size.
Yeah, and he really can play 2, 3, 4. You've had him at all 3 positions.
Yeah.
You've got several really good freshmen. I know it was a big deal. I remember when Jackson Niego committed. Everyone in the Chicago area knows the Niego last name in the hoops world. He's a point guard, Lyons Township. Talk about your freshman Jackson Niego.
Yeah, he comes from a basketball family. And because of that, the youngest brother, I'm sure he was drug around to gyms his entire life. He's been in more sweaty gyms than just about anybody. And so he brings, even as a freshman, a maturity and understanding that you don't see very often. And he doesn't have like a weakness. He can handle the ball. He's a terrific passer, plays with pace, can shoot it, can get 2 feet in the paint, has a defensive mindset, willing to pick up. And again, as a freshman, it's hard to lead. That's the hardest position to play as a freshman is the point guard position, because not only do you have to understand where everybody's supposed to be, but we're asking you to lead.
Right.
And so, but he's smart and he's picked stuff up really quickly. We're very excited to have Jackson in the program, and think he's going to have a terrific career as a Titan.
One guy that I think has just so much talent. It's scary. And I know him more as like a 6'8", 220 guy, but I started getting all these texts this year like, Q, you've got to see Harrison Wilmsen. Someone said he's 6'10". Someone said he's 6'11". Everyone said he's like 240. First of all, before you talk about Harrison, Coach Rose, can you confirm how tall you think he is and what you think he weighs? Can we get that out there?
It's like fisherman stories.
Yeah.
How big's the fish that you caught?
Yeah.
I'll say this: Harrison's a big kid. He has grown, and we had a recruit on campus, and he met him. I'm like, well, I know that recruit's 6'8", and Harrison is a couple inches taller, so he's 6'10" with shoes. I mean, Harrison's a big kid, and unfortunately, and I give him a lot of credit, he played with a stress reaction all last year.
Yeah.
Rarely could practice, couldn't run, condition, couldn't get extra shots in, limited his reps in practice to get him through the season. So he played through pain. He's a tough kid. And this offseason, he actually had to get off his feet for a while, but he lifted. So he's 6'10", 240. I mean, the kid's a beast. He's a big, strong kid. The reality is he didn't get to play a lot of basketball because he was getting healthy. He's trying to heal the stress fracture in his foot and didn't do the fall stuff, open gyms. Again, just trying to ease him into the season. He's doing probably 30, 40, maybe some practice 50%. He's going to be a guy as the year goes on, as long as we can keep him on the right track to getting healthy, is going to get better and better. But he's unique in terms of his size, but also his skill set.
Right.
I mean, he can pass, he can shoot, he's tough. You're always using the Tom Izzo seekers and avoiders of contact. Harrison's a seeker. He's not afraid to put his body on you. And he's just, he gives us a unique presence that will really be an asset for our team. So knock on wood, hopefully he can continue to get healthy, but we're expecting him to have a great season and people really figuring out who Harrison Wilmsen is as he gets healthy.
Yeah, talk about getting off the bus with 6'10", 240 and a guy that can stroke the three and a guy that can getting off the bus with Harrison. That's another good one. Another really highly regarded freshman. You won a battle with a D2 with a ton of D3s and great small college programs was Mason Funk. I think Mason's about a 6'5" wing player from U-High in town. Talk about Mason Funk.
Yeah, Mason's the first player who I coached his father. So you start talking about having some miles on me. So I coached Mason's dad, Matt, when I was a young first-time head coach at Normal Community. And Matt was a heck of a player, but he wasn't Mason. He wasn't 6'5". But Mason's kind of the 6'5" version of his dad. And Mason's really a good player. Smart, tough, just goes in there, sticks his nose in there. We got to measure his wingspan. Long arms, but he's very versatile. He can handle the ball. He can shoot the three. I think he had 90 some block shots a year ago at U-High. He does it all, and so he's a guy that as the year goes on and he gets acclimated to our system in college basketball, he'd be a guy that you could envision working on trying to find a role even as a freshman.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Mason Funk, and his grandfather, Jim, hired me at State Farm in 1993. Rosemary worked for Jim Funk. Pretty
I won't
incredible.
question his judgment. I won't question.
Right. He's not a great guy that's hiring people, right? But he's a good guy. Hey, Ron, a guy that I really like. There's just something about this guy, and he really can shoot the heck out of this. Karlo Colak, born in Croatia, grew up in Croatia, came over here, graduated from New Trier, which is an awesome program. Talk about your 6'5" sophomore Karlo Colak.
Yeah, Karlo was part of some really good teams in Trier. One thing that I think is a hard adjustment for some guys is being able to play with other really good players. And Karlo understood how to do that. Karlo knows how to play with other good players and still be good at what he does. And Karlo had a broken thumb, sprained his ankle early in the season, just never could combine enough weeks in a row, but he was always on the verge of getting into the rotation. Played a little bit in Oregon when we went out there a year ago, had a terrific offseason, went back to Croatia. He was sending me clips of his workouts and has come in, and he's another guy that spends a lot of time in the gym working on his game, loves the game of basketball, and has been terrific early in the season, can shoot the ball. Again, he's 6'5", 6'5" plus and bouncy. And so he's had a great start to his sophomore year. He's one of the guys that you look to, because we didn't shoot the ball exceptionally well last year. He could be a part of that solution as well.
Yeah, excited. Again, pure shooter, gives us some stuff that maybe we needed more of last year. So excited about Karlo. Another guy that can really shoot the ball is Nick Tingley. He's a 6'4", so great size, 6'4", sophomore, probably like a 2, from Lincoln Way Central. Talk about Nick.
Yeah, Nick can shoot the basketball. He got himself in really good shape this year. I remember watching when we were recruiting him, doing 360s and really bouncy. And so I think he's got himself in great shape. He's a hard-nosed kid, fierce competitor, sometimes too hard on himself, that he'll let one mistake because he is such a competitor. He's great to have in the program. He's a great teammate, smart. And so, Nick is competing hard to get himself in the mix as well. And we're thrilled he's part of the program for sure.
Somewhere this Sunday, there's going to be some Redbird fans that are like, who is this 6'10" guy? They're bringing a 6'10" guy off the bench. Like Nathan Boldt, Ron, he's a legit 6'10" sophomore that moves. He's not like a D3 6'10" guy that's like, oh, that's why he's D3. This guy runs the floor kind of like a wing player. Talk about Nathan Boldt.
Yeah, Nathan got some valuable minutes last year, got some experience on the floor as a freshman, and is unique. Yeah, he's 6'10" and moves, runs, can move laterally. He's a guy that, as he progresses, really could be a guy that guards 1 through 5. He gives us length, but he's, like you said, he's not a plotter. He's also very skilled. Well, the thing that when we were watching him in high school that jumped out at me is this kid can handle the ball. He can pass the basketball. Yeah. I remember a lot of the people in Chicago were saying, he's a guy that gets in these open runs with guys playing overseas, and he just knows how to play and to fit in and contribute. And we've seen that. What we're trying to get out of Nate is just be more and more aggressive. He is such an unselfish player. Sometimes he's overly unselfish, that he hasn't, I don't think, fully realizes how good he can be. But he can handle it, he can pass it, he can score it, he can he moves like a 2 or 3. And we have him playing primarily at the 4, but he can make plays. And his confidence is coming. And so we're really excited about Nate's prospects and watching how he's going to develop as this year goes on.
Absolutely. Another freshman, to me, from watching his high school highlights from Johnsburg High School, just extremely athletic. And that had me excited, the way this kid runs the floor and jumps and shoots it. So Dylan Schmidt, talk about Dylan if you would.
Yeah, Dylan is really athletic, can run and jump, but he's also, he can score the basketball. He's one of those unique guys that can score at all 3 levels. He can shoot the ball from the perimeter with his athleticism. He can get to the basket, but he's also got a nice mid-range game. And he's long, he's lanky. And he's a guy that as the year goes on, we're throwing up, it's really hard. This is true for Dylan and all the freshmen. all us college coaches, we dumb them down right away because all these guys come from different programs, have been taught different ways to play. And so now we're trying to get them to play one way, the same way. And so for a while, you're these guys that, especially that have had great high school success and taught one way, now you got to relearn how to play the way we're going to play. And so Dylan's, as all the freshmen are going through that process, but we're super excited about Dylan. He's got an immense amount of potential, and I think he's just going to get better and better as this year goes on.
Your second foreign-born player on the team, Julien Hussherr, I hope I'm saying that right, from France, right? So talk about your 6-foot sophomore guard, Julien, please.
Yeah, Julien's another guy that just loves the game. And he went home to France. And I tried to pronounce his last name, but my French dialect isn't very good. Unfortunately, Julien speaks really good English. We'd have a hard time communicating, but he can, he plays really hard. He loves, he's in the gym on his own during practice. And he is, again, one of the nicest young men you're ever going to meet, a great teammate, a hard worker. He makes your program better. And now he's coming back for a second year. That's a huge adjustment, and living that far from home, and our players love him, and you can see he's just more comfortable on campus and in our program this year than a year ago.
One of your late ads in the freshman class, it may have been August before the kid officially announced it, but Adam Beasley, your freshman guard, talk about some highlight tapes in high school. This kid is an intriguing addition to the program. Talk about Adam.
Yeah, terrific young man. And Adam recruited us. We hadn't been on him throughout the year, and the season's over. And I'm getting phone call after phone call from different people in the community about, you need to recruit Adam Beasley. Adam's interested in Illinois Wesleyan. So I followed Adam's. He started early in his high school career and had is an electrifying player. So I call Adam up, and you just fall in love with the kid right away. He's got a lot of charisma. And so there was a process that had to go through to get him here at Illinois Wesleyan. I give Adam all the credit in the world. He did all the work, made it happen. He's a young man that he played AAU basketball, so he never ran track. Well, the track coach, Wesleyan alum, Rich Baldwin from over at VHS, talks him into running track. He goes to the state in 4 events, medals in 3, and if he doesn't scratch in the long jump, might have been the long jump champ. So he is a crazy good athlete and a heck of a basketball player. He's really smart. He's going through that learning process, like I talked about earlier, but he's on the side as we're talking about defensive footwork, and he's watching it and doing it on this as he's out, so that when it's his turn, he's ready to go, which to me spoke volumes about Adam and his desire to be a good player. And we're super excited. Adam is a Titan.
Yeah, really. Go back, folks, and watch some of his VHS highlights. They're pretty exciting. Coach, rebounding is an art. If you think about what Dennis Rodman did at whatever his height was in the NBA, Marko Anderson, the kid always ends up with the basketball on both ends of the floor. Talk about your 6'6" junior from Maine South, Marko Anderson.
Yeah, he's a rebounding savant, isn't he? He just reads the ball, and part of it is that knack, but it's the motor. A lot of guys get boxed out and they quit. He's got that knack, and we always say, the rebounding battle goes to the lowest man and the first to react. And he's usually both. The ball's up in the air and he's taking 2 steps. The guy's trying to box him out, and Marco's already got position. The other thing that he's a little bit, when he's playing the 5, a little undersized at that position, but he's got long arms.
Yeah.
And he has that. You bring up Dennis Rodman. You remember him just tipping the ball to himself. Marko does that. I mean, if he can't get it, he just has that ability that you can't teach. You try to, but either you've got the motor, the desire, the instincts, or you don't, to become a great rebounder. You can make a bad rebounder a good rebounder, but to make him a great rebounder like Marko, I think back to like Nebraska Wesleyan game, we don't win that game. He doesn't come in and spark us with a couple big offensive, but he's also he's a great rebounder, but he's also a really smart player. Marko knows the offense in and out. He has great instincts. He cuts to open areas. He finds teammates. He sets good screens. Marko's a guy that just makes winning plays. And he had a great offseason. He's got himself in really good shape. You can see he's one of those guys that made that jump from a sophomore to a junior in terms of, here's how we do it. This is the type of team we're going to have. And he's also just a lot of fun to have around. Marko's got energy on the court and off the court.
It sounds like a old school Titan to me right there.
100%.
Boy, Plano, Texas, finally representing Dallas-Fort Worth, JP2 high school, Ofri Kauf. Talk about your 6'1" guard Ofri, if you would.
Yeah, that was kind of that connection. I believe Ofri reached out to you initially.
Yeah, we had an AAU coach. An AAU coach reached out, and so there was a little handoff there that I was involved in early.
Yeah, we'd love to stay in Texas. There's a lot of good basketball there, but Ofri's a terrific young man. He really skilled. He had a little setback. He wasn't able to practice the first 3 weeks or so. So he's just getting back on the court, still trying to get himself in shape. And, it's really hard. If you're a freshman, you miss the first 3 weeks or so of practice. You get out there, everyone's going 100 miles an hour. So he's getting his feet on the ground now, but super skilled, crafty. He can handle it, he can pass it, he can shoot it. Just really, really a great offensive skill set.
Yeah. Also funny that, Ofri first heard of Illinois Wesleyan from watching the yeshiva game. Ofri's Jewish. His parents grew up in Israel or from Israel. And so to think that Illinois Wesleyan came calling on the other side, he had heard of Illinois Wesleyan because he was watching and rooting for yeshiva. So that's kind of a fun story. Another freshman. I'll tell you what, Coach Rose, I guarantee this is a true statement. The reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, the reason that I'm a Titan fan, started with Jeff Kuehl. And I'm telling you, when I watched Jeff Kuehl when I was a freshman, I could not believe Division III basketball was like that. I remember him at North Park. He had like 2 broken wrists, scoring like 20 points, somehow scoring with broken wrists. Jeff's nephew is Brady Kuehl, and his father is my classmate, Steve Kuehl. So one of the cool things about Titan basketball is there are a lot of legacies. And to know that Brady is Steve's son and Jeff's nephew, to me, is incredibly exciting. But I know he can also play. Talk about your 6'7" forward, Brady Kuehl.
Well, I played with Jeff. Jeff was a sophomore my senior year, and Jeff helped keep me on the floor because I just knew throw it to Jeff. Throw it to Jeff and I get a play.
He was unbelievable.
He was incredible. And here, a little tangent. So even though this is, we're playing Illinois State for the first time, we did play an alumni game.
I remember
back in about 80, maybe 90.
It
was right after Jeff graduated.
Yes.
So we played an alumni game over at Bloomington High School as a fundraiser, and it was ISU alumni versus Wesleyan alumni. And ISU had just come off playing in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
Played Michigan really well. We played that game, and Jeff was the best player on the floor.
Sure. Yeah.
Hands down. And I scored 20-some points, and we knocked off ISU alum at that night. Jeff could play, and Steve was a great player also.
Steve was a superstar as well.
Yeah, four-year guy that, he was terrific. And Brady is a little combination of the two. And so we are really excited to have Brady following his dad and uncle's footsteps and be a Titan. His sister, Carly, plays on the volleyball team here. The Kuehls have certainly a close connection to Illinois Wesleyan. Brady's going to be a terrific player for us. 6'6", bouncy, very versatile, can step out and shoot the three, can get inside, is also instinctive rebounder, and just hard-nosed, plays the game the right way. Obviously he's been in the gym a lot with growing up a Kuehl, but Brady's going to be a terrific player for us, does a lot of different things and has length. So he's again, I'll throw him with the freshman. We do this really early after about 12 practices. He's gotten better and better every practice, and he's really smart, and he picks things up. He's one of those guys you can tell him once, and then we were doing some drill, and I said, "Hey Brady, we need to do it this way." Next time he does it that way. And so those guys usually end up being great players.
Excited about Brady for sure. Two more guys to talk about, and then we'll start to wrap up. One of your captains, Evan Schneider. I just think this kid is one of the most impressive Titans as far as a young man that I've met, just the way he conducts himself. He's a fun kid to root for. I love how he plays. He's an absolute beast. Evan Schneider, a 6'6" senior from Ladue High School in the St. Louis area. Talk about Evan, if you would.
Well, and I think there's a common theme I keep saying, but a lot of times at Illinois Wesleyan, you get kids that are very coachable. They want to do what you ask them to do, and Evan's one of those guys. You tell him to do it a certain way, he will do it exactly that way, and he'll not just do it, but he'll do it enthusiastically and full speed. And he's gotten better and better. I remember he came in, and he was a man child. I mean, he was 18 years old, but he might as well have been 30 years old and put together, strong. And I remember early on, he's just, chewing on weights in the weight room, throwing up crazy amounts. And I said, "Hey, Evan, I love that you're working out, more shooting, less lifting." I mean, you got the lifting part down, 350, 400, whatever you're lifting is great. Let's make sure we're getting in the gym. And he's got himself in really good shape. And so he's a guy that gained a lot of experience last year and comes back and is a vocal leader, even when he was not a captain. And going back to a sophomore year, he had played himself into consideration, kind of in the rotation, dislocated his shoulder, never kind of got back in the rotation. But at the end of that year, you started in practice hearing his voice and kind of holding guys accountable and challenging guys. And he carried that on to last year. He's one of those guys that I would give credit for, that we never quit. Right. We kept playing hard, and Evan will demand that. Yeah. And so he'll be a great leader for us. He'll do what we do. He'll be that voice, when if I say we need to do this, he will be a guy that will make sure that it gets done. And then he just plays with the motor and plays hard, is athletic, bouncy. He's going to be a guy that will have an impact on our season this year.
Absolutely excited about Evan senior year. It's hard to believe he is a senior already. The time flies. And then the last guy truly is the player that I have no idea where things stand with Grant Hardy, because Grant was a guy that was on the floor quite a bit younger in his career, and then he was out all of last year with injury, and I can't remember if that injury started the year before that. 6'8" forward from Grace Lake Central. Catch me up on all things related to Grant Hardy.
Yeah, Grant. All these guys, you haven't talked about the COVID. These guys were all impacted by COVID greatly, right. And so this is still those guys that had to kind of live through that difficult time. Grant, as a sophomore, when we go to yeshiva, he was Matt Laritz's backup.
Right.
He's the guy that when Matt came out, we put Grant Hardy in because of he could run like a deer, jump out of the gym. When the guys are messing around, he was the dunk champion. I mean, he can do. And he was coming. I remember talking in practice, "You're coming, Grant. You're coming, Grant." And unfortunately, then his season's cut short. last year with a knee injury wasn't able to practice at all. And so it's still a little bit of an unknown how that knee is going to react. Has been in practice. He and I both, he came in, we've been meeting. He's like, we both agreed this has gone much better than we had expected. He's again, one of those guys you want on your team. Everybody loves Grant, friends with everyone. In practice, he's coaching guys up. He's he wants to be part of a winning team. He loves being part of the team, friends with everybody. So he's a positive contributor, regardless of how this knee reacts. But it's gone really well. He's come in and practiced and just has to, he's been out of basketball for a year and a half. So he's trying to get himself back into basketball shape, get his legs, his knee healthy. But Grant's a terrific young man that I'm thrilled has stuck with it where most guys would not have.
Yeah, it's good to see him still out there trying to give this a go. And kudos to Grant. Hope that he does get healthy and is able to get out there. So it's 24 players. It's always fun to go through this because you recruit such a talented group of young men, and just to kind of hear, some of these guys and hear you talk about them and how excited you are about their potential is really cool. As we start to wrap up, Ron, we're here in, the Illinois State game week. So it's officially a Titan game week, which is pretty incredible. I always like to kind of finish this up a little bit, asking what your keys will be to the season. So when we do the QCast debrief in March and we look back on the season, what will end up having been like the keys to a successful Titan season this year?
Yeah, this group, we have guys that have logged minutes now. We have some experience. The challenge is putting it all together now. And how do all the pieces fit in the roles? And we haven't even, practice that's being worked out, but we haven't even addressed it with our guys. How do we put it all together is the key. Can we keep our defensive grittiness we've had the last 2 years, where I think we've been very good defensively, but then offensively get this thing back opened up the way we've played previously, kind of traditionally, I should say. If we can combine that and play a little bit, I think it's balanced. When we go through that list, I do like our roster. I do like our guys. I do like our size and skill. Can we put it all together and play unselfishly in a way that we utilize everybody's ability? And I like the fact that these guys have played together for a few years. We have that experience, but putting it all together is going to be the key. And then, gaining experience as a group is going to be important. And we're going to be challenged early. So, but I really like it. I'm excited about the season. We were 12-14 last year, and it doesn't make sense why I'm so optimistic, but I'm incredibly optimistic in regard to the potential this group has.
Yeah, no, I know D3 landscape really well. Ron, you have 17 years as a head coach in Division III, and I think we both agree that roster, talent, potential, like this is a really exciting team, and it wouldn't be crazy to think that things really come together for this group. But there is a crazy amount of talent on the roster here, so it's going to be a fun year. I'll ask you for final thoughts. Is there any topics we didn't get to? Anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to get on the table? And then I'll ask for your final thoughts.
Well, I'm not sure if anyone's still awake. I think we've been talking for an hour and a half, Q. And
I think we have.
I sometimes can go on tangents here, so probably gave them more than they asked for.
Well,
it's like the two-sitting one.
I appreciate you doing that and giving me all this time, and Titan fans appreciate it. Doug Clemens texted me yesterday. Did the preview come out yet? Is it on YouTube? And I said, Clem, give me a day. It's coming out. It's coming out, Clem. So people appreciate this. Ron, thanks so much. Final thoughts. I always like to leave it up to you guys on the QCast. What did we, or how would you sum this up for Titan fans, for D3 fans? What would you like to leave people with that are watching the Titan season preview piece?
Well, two things. I think Division III basketball has never been better this season, partially because of those fifth-year guys. It is going to be crazy good.
Yeah.
The number of quality teams around the country.
Agree.
When, I know you're involved with the top 25. To get in the top 25, you're going to be an outstanding, you could rank probably
crazy, Ron.
40 or 50, right?
Yes.
I mean, there are great teams around the country, and there's great teams in the CCIW. It's going to be a really fun season. I mean, it's going to be some great games. Our schedule is littered with top 20, 30 opponents. And then I want to thank you. I mean, I think the QCast and all the notoriety you've given our program. I know our guys, it makes it fun that there's an awareness like never before from around the country. So thank you for what you do, Q, and love you as having you as part of the Titan community, man.
I appreciate that, and I can't wait to see the guys play Sunday. So I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot of flights booked, folks. That is Ron Rose. He's entering season 18 as the head guy of the Titan men basketball program. This is season 4, episode 8 of the QCast. Coach Rose, we'll see you on Sunday, and go Titans.
That sounds great. Thanks, Q.